thing, the Atlantic Ocean just cracked up. I almost had to stop the show. I was laughing so hard. I mean, laughing hard. Wait. Prada.
That's my grandpa, Doug. My dad, his name's Brian.
Another mother.
That's me, Jordan, and my cousin Alec. And we're desert campers. Alright, so a little bit of a history lesson. When we started desert camping in 2012, we had one goal in mind: to go east and get away from civilization for a week. And you may be asking, what is desert camping? Well, every year, in the summer to be specific, we all travel to the desert in eastern Oregon and beyond. We stay in lookout towers, guard stations, and also just camp in the plain desert. It's in this period of a week where we rarely have cell service and we're in the middle of absolute nowhere. We become one with nature and visit the smallest unheard of towns. And burgers are the only thing for dinner, every single night. The places we visit in eastern Oregon are still reminiscent of the American frontier. These places we go to are the places pioneers once traveled through and the places Indians once called home. But perhaps the biggest spectacle of all is the stars. And because we are sometimes 100 miles away from any city, there's no artificial light to dim them down, making them infinite and luminescent. To me, laying under the billions of stars is quite humbling. Since our inception of the yearly tradition of desert camping, I'd say we've covered up a lot of the map. But the roots of desert camping actually go back quite a bit further than 2012. In fact, it goes back to when my grandpa was a boy, in the 1950s with his dad Jeep. They'd go to eastern Oregon to go antelope hunting, and you could say going to the desert was a pastime of theirs. My grandpa has a lot of stories to tell from his childhood desert trips. And when my dad was 12, my grandpa took him to one of the places he went with his dad when he was a kid. When my dad was older, he ended up joining his dad and his grandpa on the occasional desert hunting trip, even into adulthood. But later on, as everyone got older, going to the desert was kind of a once-in-a-blue-moon thing. And I heard a lot of cool stories from my dad and my grandpa, like the time they killed a rattlesnake coming through camp, or the time my grandpa was almost trampled to death by a herd of wild horses. But eventually desert camping became something they only told stories about. It was somewhat dead. And that's when I said, well, why don't we go desert camping? And once more, desert camping was alive again. We left in the summer of 2012 for our inaugural trip. It was me, my dad, my stepbrother Tanner, and my grandpa. I had to use a stick figure since I didn't have a picture of all of us. After the 6-hour drive, we arrived at our first camp, Murderers Creek Guard Station. A guard station is a national forest cabin. They rent them out to the public when not in use. And apparently it's called Murderers Creek because in 1862, a group of miners were murdered by Indians in their sleep there. We encountered lots of wildlife, including hundreds of antelope in the Heart Mountain Refuge. Saw a coyote eating a dead cow, made a stop in Nevada, went fishing, camped in the South Steens, and went to another cabin near a town called Plush. Visited a fire lookout tower, took a dip in a couple of hot springs, saw the beautiful painted hills, and of course, we shot some guns. My favorite part though was the Alvord Desert. It's completely flat for 9 miles. Land speed records have been set there. We tried to set our own, but my dad only let us do 70. The nearest town was Fields, Oregon, population 11. The town has a little store and a burger joint, and apparently Fields is home to the best milkshake in the world. Tried them out, and they work quite good. We continued in 2013 and even got desert camping t-shirts. We stayed in this guard station right on the John Day River and saw the remnants of the gold rush, including this ghost town and this old gold mining dredge. Panned for gold, no luck, stayed in another guard station and camped on the Oahe River. Went fishing, shot some guns again, and hiked to the top of this cliff. If you look closely, you might be able to see us. Took a swim in the river, made a pit stop to check out a volcano, and also, I smashed my thumb trying to cock a pellet gun. For about a day, I was in the most excruciating pain I've ever felt. In 2014, my cousin Alec had to replace Tanner due to his demanding work schedule. We had to fly Alec in from Colorado. We spent 3 nights at the Drake Peak Lookout. The Forest Service uses the lookout towers to spot wildfires, so they have a 360-degree panoramic view. It was spectacular. During the day, we shot some BB guns, laid in the sun, and enjoyed the view. We even had this guy come visit us. I made tacos for the crew one night. We camped in the South Steens again, went to a pioneer museum, made a stop in the town of French Glen, revisited the Alvord Desert, got to drive on the Alvord Desert, stumbled upon a snowfield which we did some hiking on. Oh, and remember that coyote we saw in 2012 eating a dead cow? Well, we found the bones of the dead cow. Alec turned out to be the perfect addition to the desert camping crew. 2015 was a bit of a shorter year due to my busy summer work schedule, but it wasn't any less memorable. Alec joined us again, becoming a permanent installment to the desert camping crew. We spent 3 nights at the Fry Meadow Guard Station, which sits right on a meadow, just north of the small town of Elgin. Since we were in the middle of nowhere, we had to entertain ourselves. Using my grandpa's metal detector, we started to look for metal around the campsite. Found a few nails and some pennies. Not much, but we kept going. That's when we hit the jackpot. Me and Alec found a whole bunch of old bottles, cans, and tobacco tins. We must have been digging for hours and we just kept finding more. We made the 2-hour drive to Wallowa Lake. There was a small resort there that had mini golf and a tram that went all the way up the mountain. There was a restaurant and trails up there. After that, we paid our respects at Chief Joseph's gravesite. Though shorter than the usual desert camping trip, it was still pretty dang fun. 2016 marked our 5th annual trip to the desert. It was the first year I decided to bring a camera to fully capture the trip. Okay, so I was trying to get a nice slow motion video of me blowing out the dandelion. But Alec got the idea to shove it down my mouth. He thought it was quite funny. Me, not so much. Look how caught off guard I was. How deceptive. Okay, back to 2016 desert camping.
Are you guys saying something?
5.0.
Where are you guys going?
Desert camping 5.0. Okay, let's go.
Wait.
We made a grocery stop in Pendleton, messed around in the parking lot, and stayed in this guard station in Northeast Oregon, complete with 4 beds, a table, and a gas stove. Stopped at the Oregon Trail, and it wouldn't be desert camping without shooting some guns.
It's
We happened to be staying there during the Perseid meteor shower, so me and Alec ditched the beds and slept outside every night. I've never seen that many shooting stars in my life. We sat around the fire every night. And also, we attempted to climb this tree. This might sound off topic, but my favorite book in high school has been The Catcher in the Rye. In the book, one of the main character Holden's favorite places was the Museum of Natural History in New York. He says, "I get very happy when I think about it. I loved that dang museum." The best thing though in that museum is that everything always stays right where it was. Nobody'd move. You could go there 100,000 times and that Eskimo would still be just finished catching those 2 fish. The birds would still be on their way south. The deers would still be drinking out of that water hole with their pretty antlers and their pretty skinny legs. And that squirrel with a naked bosom would still be weaving that same blanket. Nobody'd be different. The only thing that would be different would be you. And it is true that we live in a world that's constantly changing. New buildings are always being put up. The cars we drive are always getting fancier. And people are always getting older. But what I like about the desert is it always stays the same. Like a lot of the places my great-grandpa visited 50 years ago are still largely untouched today. Camping in the desert has been one of my favorite traditions. I can't wait for the years to come. Well, 2016 desert camping was another successful year in the books. I can say I'm truly excited for whatever next adventure we decide to embark on.